This is 5 minutes of political common sense for America. I'm Brian Boeheim, the political engineer. And I'd like to talk for a few minutes about how government regulation and the unions have stained the Gulf. Everyone wants to throw BP under the bus for what's gone wrong with the Gulf oil spill. But the buck doesn't stop there. How about the regulatory agencies and the unions? Let me explain. 3 days after the BP oil spill, the Dutch offered the U.S. government ships equipped to handle 400 cubic meters an hour of oil filtering. The ferocious Dutch vessels continuously suck up vast quantities of oily water, extracting most of the oil and then spitting overboard vast quantities of nearly oil-free water. Our answer? That's right, our response to the Dutch was unequivocally thanks, but no thanks. So you got to ask yourself, why would we turn down such a common sense solution and proven solution and valuable offer? Because nearly oil-free isn't good enough for the U.S. regulators. They have a standard of 15 parts per million. If water isn't at least 99.9985% pure, it can't be put back into the Gulf of Mexico. How ludicrous is that? Wasn't it government regulators that allowed BP to bypass several safety measures that eventually caused this catastrophe in the first place? You can't tell me that having these vessels in there, sucking the oil out and getting even 80% of it or 90% of it wouldn't have been better than what we did. Now, eventually, when all hope was lost, the U.S. government relented and took the Dutch up on their offer, but not really. For some reason, the government didn't want the Dutch ships working in the Gulf. So they pulled off the equipment from the vessels, they airlifted the equipment, and retrofitted it on U.S. vessels. Wait, it gets better. Instead of using Dutch crews who knew the equipment and could be immediately operational, the labor unions forced the cleanup to be delayed until U.S. crews could be trained. At some point, did common sense not come into play? Did somebody not just thunk their forehead and go, couldn't we have thought of this? Couldn't we have managed this better? Wait, it's still not over. If you haven't already heard enough, the building of sand berms to protect the Louisiana marshes, it was ridiculously slow in transpiring. And in some cases, didn't happen at all. The White House said it was due to environmental concerns. The real reason was that they were stalling while the U.S. companies that would receive the contract were trained properly by the Dutch. Heaven forbid we protect our irreplaceable marshes by having the Dutch bring in dredgers and create a 63-mile sand burn in half the time. It's time we realize that this administration isn't prepared to handle a crisis and that they are far too concerned with appeasing special interest groups. A great deal of this catastrophe could have been handled and managed, but it wasn't. Political concerns and special interest groups are driving far too much of our policy and our actions. You've been listening to 5 minutes of Political Common Sense for America. I'm Brian Boeheim, the political engineer. If you like what you heard here, then go pick up a copy of my book, Political Common Sense for America. You can find it at Amazon.com. Until next time, be safe out there.